So it was an interesting week in terms of things watched. I guess on the top of the list, the first thing I've officially marked finished, although I was in the middle of a series at the time, is Pokemon Movie 14, and I watched both versions of it. I think Black first, White second, maybe Victini and Reshiram first, then Victini and Zekrom second, whichever the order is. I think Black and then White is the correct order. And actually, it was pretty good. I guess the story itself was a bit on the weak side in terms of, like, when the main conflict begins happening, I think the music kind of knows what the movie's doing, but it's also kind of anticlimactic in a way where you kind of, it's music that feels like something's just happening, and the actions going on are just happening and something, and for some reason, while there could have been tension there, it ended up being kind of annoying. But the thing where this one shines is once again making Legendary interesting. In this case, Reshiram and Zekrom were not portrayed as interestingly as, say, Dialga and Palkia in the Darkrai movie, but, you know, something about them felt like they're just kind of legendaries that are just there to be there, and not these powerful legendary Pokemon. Victini, on the other hand, I actually found to be a rather interesting, empathetic, and you know, kind of a good focus for the movie to kind of care about and wish for. And Ash did pretty good, I thought, in terms of just how he acted. And one of the reasons I was really interested in watching it was to kind of get a measurement for his other traveling companions, but either they just don't have much presence or personality in the series, or the movie didn't play them as strongly, which is unfortunate. But oh well. When Black and White comes out, I'll maybe have a better opinion about them. It's possible that my opinion, the same thing happened with May and Dawn. Misty, of course, I would have known from longer ago, since I did watch Pokemon when I was younger. But yeah, so other than that, it was actually kind of interesting. I initially tried watching them both at the same time, just in the off chance there was very little change between them. But it's very interesting just from the beginning to see what they did differently in terms of, oh, there's lightning here and there's fire there, that's expected. The narrator is saying the exact same thing in both of them. They keep showing different Pokemon. I don't remember if they're the ones unique to the current version of the movie you're watching versus unique to the opposite game, I guess. So if the movie is named Black, then I don't know if the Pokemon were unique to Pokemon Black, or if they were unique to the opposite game, so that the movies gave you a mix. I don't know. All I know is you had that at the very beginning. You had which road Ash and company choose, and for those scenes, they actually mirrored them. It's really obvious when you watch them side by side. Kind of intriguing. And as for the content in the series, in the movies themselves, I guess they differ in, let's see. First of all, they differ in that the very first scene takes place in one place or the other, depending upon which of the legendaries are working with the bad guy in this one. And I guess that's one of the weaker parts of this movie, where it's like he's got a plan, but it just kind of seems like he's just going forward and not really creating tension or malicious intent or anything. Just kind of annoying, I guess. And I guess maybe it's revealing more information than I would care to, but I guess you kind of gather from the beginning that he's going to be opposed to the current character because he always uses the opposite type of character. So in Victini and Reshiram, bad guy's using Zekrom, and I'm using bad guy in quotes because he's not really a bad guy. And this is also pretty obvious by the way he's talking, the way he's doing, the way he interacts. That shouldn't be too bad of a spoiler, I guess. But yeah, he does he saves the people. He's talking to the people at the beginning of those in two different areas. He of course has the opposite legendary of the one in the title. The two legendaries, Reshiram and Zekrom, are about truth and ideals, and the intro to them, the words differed in what the narrator said at the very end. I guess seeking truth versus ideals. I didn't listen too carefully when I was watching only one at a time. When I was watching both at a time, I realized, oh my god, I have absolutely no clue what this person who has the same voice in two different places said. Which is why I switched to only watching one at a time. But, you got the incident at the beginning where he saves people with the opposite titular legendary, and he does it in different places, either in a desert or an Antarctic place. There are, let's see, there's a Hydreigon, I think, and a Golurk that two of the characters have, and in one version the Golurk is shiny, and in the other the Hydreigon is shiny. That was an interesting change. Naturally, encounters with the legendary differ, but I think there was also a scene in the middle where you see the guy rescuing the people from the other place that he rescued in the other movie at the beginning with the current Pokemon instead. So it's fairly minor things. It doesn't really change the outcome of the story. It slightly modifies one scene that determines Ash kind of getting to the other legendary in order to awaken it. The one that's titular and obvious Ash is going to get to. But it was ultimately not too different. And essentially the stories are exactly the same. It was just very interesting to kind of notice differences, and there may be even more I didn't notice, very subtle things. But I tried to pay attention to reversed images and stuff like that, and I didn't notice a whole lot, if any. I may try and watch them side by side again just to see if there's anything I did miss. It's also be interesting if the timing was different. Sorry. Overall, definitely not my favorite, but I thought it had, with Victini at least, and the interaction between Ash and Victini, I thought it was actually one of the more convincing, cute Pokemon movies. Oof. Let's see. Okay. So on to the next series. I did watch Okami-san and her 7 companions. It was actually really interesting watching it. I didn't realize going into it that it would have this characters based off of fairy tales idea going on. But I guess that's pretty much what it did. It was actually pretty entertaining to watch otherwise. Nothing about it stuck out as particularly noteworthy, and the resemblance of the titular character to Taiga from Toradora kind of plagued on me a whole lot. It's not just her appearance. Some of her personality is kind of similar, although there's aspects of it that definitely aren't. Voice different person since I watched the English dub, of course, and the narrator was actually pretty amazing, I think, throughout the series. Not sure if I have a whole lot else to say about it, though, so let's see. I also watched... It's actually kind of... Oh, yes. I watched all of Evangelion, except for Death and Rebirth, alongside somebody who was watching it for the first time. The person I probably mentioned was watching Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood. If I didn't mention somebody I knew was watching that, Charles from DVD Collection in particular, then I at least mentioned some of Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood and how that my thoughts on that series in general. And now we've watched Evangelion. That one was actually really nice to rewatch because, I've done a lot of reading of the Eva Wiki and the ideas of what that means for the universe and things that I had never quite picked up and such. And it's very interesting watching the original Evangelion series, seeing how much of that stood out. And also verifying that Evangelion is still one of my favorite anime out there. It's definitely still on that list. It did more than just impact me then. It's just got its way of handling, of displaying its situations that never really got imitated so much as certain other changes it introduced to the mecha genre at the time. And I guess that's fine because it means that there's no real conflict in my mind. It doesn't confuse things for me. I think that's nice. End of Evangelion was End of Evangelion, and watching all that was good. And then we watched 1.11, 2.22, and after having watched the series, you probably should take a somewhat longer break than we did, which is we watched 1.11 and 2.22 the next day. But I think you should take more of a break between the series and those movies because the movies definitely feel a little fast. I really like Evangelion, the series' slower build-up of scenes, tension, and character interaction, and whatever. That the movies can't really explore as much. On the other hand, the movies also just have really, really spectacular music and just action. Especially, building up to the end of 2.2. So through 1.1 to the end of 2.2, and that may be the meanest thing I've ever done to him because now he's probably waiting for Evangelion 3.33 with as much anticipation as I am. Oh well, not much to do about that. But that was actually a pretty good use of my time, I thought. What am I saying here? Sorry. Don't remember. I left notes. Oh, yes. I left notes for myself, but I didn't leave them in as legible as I would want. I watched Gundam movies 2 and 3, which were fine. They were covering the material again. I can't help but think that last time I might have mentioned that it seemed like the movies were mentioning the concept of new type a lot more than I remember the series. I'm not sure if this is a difference between the series and the movies, or a difference between the English dub and the Japanese with English subtitles. But it was a very noteworthy concept throughout the entirety of the movies, as far as I could tell, constantly being a lingering question. Whereas in the series, I thought it didn't get introduced until nearer the end. Oh well, the basic idea is now that I got those movies done, I maybe will remember some of Mobile Suit Gundam a bit better, but for the most part this means I can start watching other Gundam stuff whenever I get around to that. As long as I don't get distracted by other backlogs that I keep creating. And that's the real goal there. So the final thing I watched was Madoka Magica Volume 2, which has episodes 5 through 8, and oh my god. It was just as intense as the first volume was, and just like the first volume, it took a couple hours for the brain to jumpstart after taking a hit like that. It's not that it's really cognitive, it's actually, there's a lot of twists that I was actually suspecting were the actual twists the anime was going to take, and it took them. There were a couple in there that I didn't expect, but overall, none of that really mattered because the execution, how it gets there, is really where this series shines, and it's just, I don't know how to put it. Again, it left me kind of, left me in a while where I had to kind of come out of a zombie state of sorts. I did not watch any other anime last night because of it. Well, I think I might have finally recovered to a state where I could watch a couple clips of stuff. And then think, oh, I might have stuff this week that I might want to start watching tonight, but I don't know. Oh well. I guess I need to end anime analysis now that I mentioned that, and I'm thinking about how late it is since it's taking a while to do these updates, so